Right.
Chef's kiss. So you're playing Cap Fuller.
Yeah.
And this seems like it wouldn't be a stretch for you for this character. It was a little crusty, but
no, you know, I started.
What if Hollywood's most legendary diva almost missed the love of her life because of a haircut? James Brolin and Barbra Streisand's love story is not merely a tale of Hollywood glamour, but a profound journey shaped by personal pain, resilience, and unwavering devotion. Now, in the twilight of their lives, they face perhaps their most intimate and difficult chapter together. After 25 years of marriage, the once meticulously separate lives of two fiercely independent individuals have become inextricably intertwined, particularly as Barbara's health quietly falters. James, who once had proposed 3 times before Barbara accepted, now chooses love not through words but through presence. Hollywood whispers that he turned down a $2 million role just to remain by her side, signaling a chapter of quiet sacrifice after decades of public accomplishment. Born Craig Kenneth Brolin on July 18, 1940, during a scorching Los Angeles heatwave, Brolin came into a world already marked by hardship. His father, Henry, a strict contractor, raised their household with military rigor. Even as a toddler, Craig had responsibilities and expectations, but no comfort, no lullabies or stories, just silence and order. His mother, Helen, once a silent film extra, had buried her Hollywood aspirations so deeply that she couldn't bear to nourish his. When asthma hospitalized him at age 7 for over a month, Craig faced the ordeal alone. No visits, no warmth, only his ragged breathing in a sterile room. That solitude forged in him not weakness, but a quiet will to endure. His intellect revealed itself early. At 9, he dismantled and reassembled his father's wristwatch. Teachers called him gifted, but what truly saved him was cinema. In 1955, James Dean's raw performance in East of Eden changed everything. Craig became obsessed, riding 17 miles every weekend to Griffith Park to mimic Dean's movements and whisper his lines. He made silent films with neighborhood kids and invested his paper route earnings in an 8mm camera. When Dean tragically died, Craig was so devastated he went mute for 11 days. A teacher, moved by one of his films, sent to UCLA, where it earned an honorable mention, his first spark of validation, but his path remained steep. As a young adult, Brolin entered Hollywood not with connections, but with determination. Despite his looks and talent, he faced endless rejection and spent months living out of a Volkswagen behind a 7-Eleven. He often ate canned beans or went without, refusing to give himself permission to quit. In 1965, he landed a background role on Batman, only to be cut from the final edit. Repeatedly, he faced humiliation, even getting fired for having the wrong voice after finally landing a speaking role. But instead of giving up, he whispered his pain into journal entries and Shakespearean monologues recited behind dumpsters. It was a janitor who changed his fate. After seeing Brolin reciting lines in secret, he introduced him to someone at Universal Studios, and that led to a screen test. From there, Brolin earned a recurring role on a medical drama. That opportunity evolved into his breakout as Dr. Stephen Kiley in Marcus Welby, MD, a role that earned him a Primetime Emmy and pulled him from the depths of self-doubt. His journey was not quick, nor was it clean. It was carved out of desperation and grit. At the height of his fame, however, Brolin faced another form of pain. His first marriage suffered under the weight of his growing career, leaving him alienated from his wife and distanced from his son. The more popular he became, the lonelier he felt, though the world applauded him. He often lay awake wondering if he was chasing success or fleeing from something emptier. He poured this struggle into his roles. In Skyjacked, Westworld, and the Amityville Horror, he channeled inner torment into riveting performances. And in Hotel, he finally found both creative and financial stability, stepping behind a camera to direct and discovering a rare period of fulfillment. Singing became her sanctuary. She joined her school's choir not for attention, but to feel less invisible. Teachers noticed that her voice held an uncanny depth of feeling. It was this raw emotion that fueled her rise. From singing in smoky nightclubs to winning a Broadway role in I Can Get It For You Wholesale, for which she received a Tony nomination. Columbia Records signed her, and her debut album went on to win Album of the Year at the Grammys. But fame did not quiet the echoes of childhood neglect. Every performance, every note, was a cry for acknowledgement, not just from audiences, but from her past. Refusing to change her appearance or her name, Barbra fought to control her image and career. Her unforgettable role in Funny Girl led to an Oscar, and she dominated the 1970s with hits like The Way We Were and A Star Is Born, where she not only acted but produced. Evergreen, her song from A Star Is Born, won an Academy Award, making her the first woman to receive the honor for Best Original Song. But her crowning creative achievement, Yentl, took 15 years of relentless campaigning, only to be snubbed by the Oscars despite winning her a Golden Globe for Best Director. Still, she pressed on, directing and producing The Prince of Tides and winning the Directors Guild Award. Yet, anxiety haunted her. Stage fright kept her from performing live for 27 years until she finally reclaimed that part of herself in the mid-1990s. Barbra and James's paths converged in 1996, each carrying deep scars but also a fragile hope for connection. By then, Barbra had endured 28 unsuccessful dates, and James, hesitant about one more, changed his mind at the last moment. That decision changed everything. Their first meeting might have been a disaster. Barbra bluntly questioned his haircut, but instead became a moment of authenticity. James felt truly seen. Their relationship grew slowly, with trust carefully built over time. James proposed 3 times. Barbra finally accepted after reading a heartfelt 24-page letter he wrote. They married in 1998 in a quiet, candlelit ceremony that emphasized intimacy over spectacle. Their life together wasn't about merging into one identity. It was about honoring each other's independence while building something deeply shared. Though they kept separate finances for years, the clearest symbol of their union was a custom-designed $35,000 mattress they called their boardroom bed. It was their sanctuary, where they wrote music, planned projects, shared thoughts, and simply existed in peace. During the COVID-19 pandemic, they spent 425 straight nights together, completing puzzles and journaling. When tension arose, they walked in silence until calm returned. Their bond was not built on drama, but on deliberate tenderness. Barbra never stopped trying to change the world. Her activism intensified as she championed women's health research, leading initiatives that impacted national medical discourse. Meanwhile, she quietly composed her memoir by hand, 970 pages written from the safety of their shared bed, chronicling not just a career, but a survival. When her book released in 2023, it stood as a monument not just to her public victories, but to the private peace she found with James. But time, relentless and quiet, began to press in. In recent years, James's retreat from the spotlight signaled something more than professional reprioritization. Barbra's health became a concern, never publicly confirmed, but deeply felt. James stopped taking roles, telling producers, "I can't commit right now." Instead, he stayed. He prepared her tea, reread her notes, and aligned her journals as if tending to sacred pages. No statements were made, no headlines declared it. It was simply love, quiet, daily, and absolute. In the soft shadow of aging and illness, their love only deepened. It was no longer built on red carpets or award shows, but on daily rituals. Tidying a desk, adjusting a pillow, standing together in the hush of uncertainty. Though the details of Barbra's illness remain private, James's devotion shines plainly. He is preparing for the possibility of farewell, not with fear, but with presence. And in doing so, he honors a promise made not just in vows, but in every shared morning and sleepless night they've endured together. As the years stretched on, what defined Barbra Streisand and James Brolin's love wasn't just their public milestones, but the private rituals that quietly sustained them. In an industry often obsessed with the ephemeral box office numbers, red carpet moments, and magazine spreads, they became something refreshingly rare, enduring. Their love was not performative. It was purposeful. Even as accolades continued to pour in and retrospectives began to crown them as legends, they never lost sight of what mattered most: presence. Whether it was Barbra preparing James's favorite homemade soup on cold Malibu mornings, or James taking the time to adjust the lighting in Barbra's music studio just so her eyes wouldn't strain. These were the details that composed their daily symphony. Their devotion was in the small acts, in the mundane moments that often pass unnoticed to the outside world, but meant everything to them. While others measure success in awards or earnings, they measure in the quiet comfort of knowing someone would be there at the end of the day to listen, to hold, to simply understand. In a culture where the spotlight can often become a substitute for self-worth, they redefine the meaning of partnership, not as a merger fame, but as the alignment of values, healing, and growth. Barbra, even in later years, retained a spark of fierce independence. She continued writing, championing causes, and mentoring younger artists. She refused to let age diminish her voice or dim her purpose. Whether in political advocacy, social justice, or philanthropy, she remained outspoken and deeply involved. Her charity work went beyond press releases and galas. She met with researchers, visited clinics, reviewed data, and made decisions that directly affected lives. Her foundation quietly funded education scholarships, health research, and environmental preservation. And all the while, James stood beside her, not in her shadow, but as a supportive force of his own. He once said, "She's a hurricane, but I'm the mountain that doesn't move." It was never about competition between them. There was space for both to be great, to be grounded, to evolve. While she led with fire, he steadied with calm. That delicate balance made their home not just a refuge, but a place of constant recalibration. Two strong personalities in rhythm, not opposition. They had their differences, of course. Barbra, meticulous and exacting, could spend hours fine-tuning a single lyric or rearranging the furniture for better acoustics. James, more relaxed in temperament, often reminded her to breathe, to step back, to savor the work rather than be consumed by it. And yet, he never stifled her process. He respected her need for perfection because he knew where it came from. A childhood of silence, of neglect, where the only thing she could control was her output. Perfection wasn't vanity, it was safety. And she, in turn, respected James's quieter creative spirit. His paintings, his home design projects, his scripts. They became part of their shared world. She encouraged his artistic pursuits, even as the world continued to know him mostly as an actor. In one of her personal essays, Barbra once wrote, "James sees things others miss, not just in me, but in the world." Their admiration for each other was deep-rooted, not just romantic, but intellectual and spiritual. They challenged one another not with cruelty, but with care. Their Malibu estate became more than just a residence. It was a world of their own design. Every path, every sculpture, every shade of ivy on the terrace had a story. It was there that they held intimate dinners for close friends, often serving meals Barbra cooked herself. The table was always filled with laughter, debate, music, and a sense of reverence for life's precious, fleeting beauty. In the garden, they had a bench inscribed with a line from one of Barbra's favorite poems. "Grow old along with me. The best is yet to be." And they did. They grew into themselves and into each other. Even the silence between them felt full. It wasn't avoidance. It was understanding. After all, two people who had endured so much before they met didn't need constant dialogue to feel close. Their comfort was intuitive, like a melody that needed no lyrics. In their final decades together, their lives narrowed not in a limiting sense, but in a clarifying one. The world outside continued to roar with noise, Hollywood trends, cultural shifts, the endless churn of relevance. But they retreated into a life shaped by intention. They limited travel. They hosted fewer gatherings. They spoke less to the press. Their energy went inward, toward each other, toward reflection, toward memory. Barbra worked steadily on preserving her archives, carefully organizing letters, recordings, drafts, and personal memorabilia, not for ego, but for legacy. She wanted the truth to be told in her own voice. James, meanwhile, spent more time in her library and garden, often rereading old scripts or sketching ideas for stories he might never film. But it didn't matter if they were published or produced. It mattered that they were shared between them, read aloud over tea, woven into their evenings like a ritual. As age began to take its toll, they adjusted their rhythm. Mornings started later. Conversations grew softer, and the once bustling house quieted. But the love remained vibrant. They created new routines, reviewing old photographs together, playing records from their youth, watching classic films by candlelight. They kept journals not for publication, but for each other. Sometimes Barbra would write poetry for James and leave it tucked under his pillow. Sometimes he'd record himself reading her favorite passages from Rilke or Neruda and play them softly in the morning. These were not grand gestures for the world to see. They were sacred exchanges, private and profound. And then there were the moments when illness reminded them of the fragility of everything they had built. Though the details remained guarded from public view, the shift was undeniable. Barbra, always so vital and commanding, grew quieter. The radiant energy that once filled every room dimmed, replaced by a serene stillness. James never left her side. He adjusted her pillows. He organized her medications. He reread her letters when her memory wavered. He learned her rhythms anew, not the rhythms of stage, but of healing, of care, of presence. In these moments, his love revealed its most powerful form, not as a protector, but as a witness. He didn't try to fix what couldn't be fixed. He simply stayed. He held space for whatever came, whether it was laughter, confusion, tears, or silence. Their story, illuminated first by fame, now glows with something more enduring. In a world where celebrity marriages often flicker and fade, there remains a rare flame, steady, quiet, unwavering. It is not marked by grand declarations, but by steadfast kindness and mutual refuge. They didn't just survive their past. They helped each other heal. They didn't just grow old together. They grew whole. Through whispered lullabies, long walks, and letters written by hand, they built a love that was not just lasting, but transforming. And so, their journey teaches us that real love isn't about spectacle. It's about staying. It's about holding space for each other, especially when the world grows quiet and the lights dim. Their marriage is not a Hollywood fantasy. It's a living, breathing testament to choosing each other every single day. Not perfectly, but completely. If this journey moved you, drop a comment, share your favorite Barbra or James moment, and be sure to subscribe.